We all go through life accepting what textbooks told us about the universe. But what happens when questions are raised about many of our fundamental beliefs? A mystery that cannot be explained. An enigma that defies reason. A surprising and unexpected answer. To encounter such a mystery firsthand may change your life forever. Face to face with the greatest riddles of the ages, the world's most profound mysteries reach out and touch your life in ways you've never imagined possible. Encounters with the unexplained.
One of the most intriguing mysteries of modern UFO research is encountered not in the sky nor in outer space, but tucked away neatly in the Nevada desert.
What is it that lies beyond this boundary that the U.S. government would kill to keep secret? Is there a base hidden away in the desert waste of Nevada where the government actually flies captured UFOs? Do Russian satellite photos reveal the amazing truth our own government won't let us see? Could this man's remarkable story really be true? Did he work on alien spacecraft and help make them fly again? Could the U.S. government actually be working with alien beings in a super-secret desert complex known only as Area 51?
Old geological maps identify this particular piece of real estate simply as Area 51. This designation covers a large area which consists principally of the dried-up bed of an ancient sink, which for some unfathomable reason is still called Groom Lake. A super-secret facility located here supposedly operates around the clock, and even though the government silently insists it doesn't exist, it has been seen by hundreds of witnesses and photographed dozens of times. And if the rumors about it are true, this installation is the hiding place for one of the most amazing secrets of this or any other generation. Clearly, there are secrets of some kind in this mysterious complex because, according to official government maps of the region, the entire installation simply does not exist. Why is this desert base such a secret? Is the truth of its purpose related to the continual sightings in the area of UFOs?
After the Lazar story broke, the UFO watchers came here and discovered this land. They came here in four-wheel drives to overlook the secret base.
In a television interview, Robert Lazar claimed that he was employed between 1988 and 1989 at a hidden base even more secret than the Groom Lake installation.
When I went to work, I was flown from McCarran Airport in Las Vegas to Area 51. From Area 51, I was bused to an even more highly secure facility located about 15 miles south of Area 51 called S4. S4 is situated at the base of the Papoose Mountains by the Papoose Dry Lake bed. The S4 installation is built into the mountain and the 9 hangar doors are angled at about 60 degrees. These doors are covered with a sand-textured coating to blend in with the side of the mountain and the desert floor.
According to Bob Lazar, it was in this hidden base that he worked on disc-shaped flying craft that were based on technology given to mankind by beings from another planet.
In other words, not only did I read briefings and not only was I taught the theories of these technologies, but they were demonstrated for me and I know they are true and accurate.
Lazar went on to claim that there are several fully working flying discs at the S4 facility, but only one on which he personally worked.
Because of its sleek appearance, I nicknamed it the Sport Model. The Sport Model is about 16 feet tall and 40 feet in diameter. The center level of this disc also houses the control consoles and seats, both of which were too small and too low to the floor to be functional for adult human beings.
Bob Lazar paints a scenario where the craft has an anti-gravity reactor or a gravity reactor that produces a wave of gravity. If you're inside this craft, it has no seat belts because to you inside the craft, it is always upright at natural gravity.
If the story Lazar tells is true, then this design is no mere fantasy, but a reality, and proof positive that Earth has been visited by intelligent beings from another planet. Could the U.S. government actually have this kind of technology in its possession and have kept such a secret from the public and press for over 50 years? And if the story has already been told, why is the government still taking such extraordinary measures to try and keep the base hidden? According to this research by the Salt Lake Tribune in September of 1993, Air Force Secretary Sheila Wignall requested control over nearly 4,000 acres of publicly owned land out in the Nevada desert in the Nellis Range complex. Reporter Glenn Campbell devoted several years to breaking down the wall of secrecy around Area 51 and the mysterious base at Groom Lake.
Area 51 is a small block of land that is simply the best known of the secret areas of the Nellis Air Force Range complex. Behind that, we have vast areas of desert. Until the early 1980s, it was actually possible to drive up to the Groom dry lake bed and look across and see the base in the distance. It was a secret base, but an open secret. In the mid-1980s, the military seized an entire mountain range, the Groom mountain range. At that point, the base became non-existent. It disappeared from USGS maps, and ever since then, the government has refused to refer to the base in any manner or form.
What could be on this installation that would merit such strong measures? Does anyone outside of the base know what kind of work is being done there?
We should all remember that the U-2 spy plane was flying out of Area 51 for many years. The same is true of the Blackbird SR-71 and the stealth fighter. They were all flying for many years before we heard about them.
But will the government use deadly force to simply keep citizens from seeing airplanes take off and land?
Area 51's been a pet project of mine for the last 25 years. Colleagues all around the world feed me information through our website, email, whatever. We do have some pretty interesting information showing that they've not only had alien craft that they've captured and been testing, but they also have equipment they don't even know what it does.
It's fairly obvious that this particular site was chosen because of its isolation, and being part of the Nellis Air Base bombing range doesn't make it all that inviting either. But apparently the isolation or even fear of bombs wasn't enough to keep people away. Just exactly what other measures has the government taken to protect this non-existent base from intruders? Is it the average citizen, the UFO buff, who's the problem? Or are they concerned with enemy spies? And just who is it that is protecting the most widely known secret in the world? Would it surprise you to learn that it's not the government at all? For years now, average citizens, individually, by the van load and by the bus load, have gone considerably out of their way just to get a close-up view of Area 51, only to encounter a scene right out of a third world country. An SUV or helicopter will suddenly appear on the crest of a hill. The message is unmistakable. You are not welcome here.
Come on, let's go. Get it out of here. This photo shoot's over with. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Get in the car. Come on. Let's go.
But given the vast size of the complex, surely they can't be everywhere at once. How can they be sure someone isn't getting past the guards, so to speak?
It has, I'm told, surface-to-air missiles in case planes fly over that aren't welcome there.
And we were pursued dangerously by this helicopter.
If he doesn't respond immediately, another airplane will be scrambled to intercept him and force him out of the area, or he'll be shot down.
The question is fairly asked. Can security measures be taken too far? And what happens when one side or the other crosses the line? Could it be that the UFO craze simply got everyone off on the wrong track? Long before there was a base of any kind around the Groom Lake area, Area 51 was just another useless piece of desert to be used for atomic testing. Is it possible that the guardians of Area 51 just want to protect people from possible exposure to latent radiation? Norio Hayakawa doesn't think so. He's experienced firsthand the aggressive security measures at Area 51.
In 1991, I led an investigative group from Southern California, including some journalists, to this area, and after we witnessed what I believe was some type of a test flight or possibly a maneuvering of these objects in the air, we were pursued by black military helicopter. I was leading a caravan of 7 cars on this dirt road that led to the outside perimeters of Area 51. And suddenly a black military helicopter with no insignia came over and approached our cars, came in front of our cars, almost about 10 to 15 feet above our cars.
But if Norio Hayakawa and other curiosity seekers trespassed on military property, shouldn't they expect to be confronted, even arrested?
At no time were we trespassing the military area. We were well away from the military zone, and we were on public land. We had every right to be on public land, but yet we were harassed by this military helicopter dangerously.
Whatever is happening at Area 51, it seems certain it is not to keep people from wandering into an area where they might be injured or pick up old atomic radiation. It is designed specifically to protect whoever or whatever is inside the complex.
They are ready to use whatever force necessary to keep people away from this area, even outside perimeters.
If that's true, if the guardians of Area 51 will even pursue civilians on public land 10 miles away from the installation, haven't they overlooked the fact that this secret base is still easily visible from the air? Would it not be a simple matter to fly low over the complex and see exactly what kind of work is being done there? Retired Air Force Colonel Wendell Stevens doesn't think so.
The airspace over the Nellis Range is highly restricted. If a pilot happens to stray into one of these restricted areas, he's contacted by radio in the clear and asked to leave. If he continues to fly in this restricted area, he'll be ordered to leave immediately and will be given vectors to leave the area by the shortest route. If he doesn't respond immediately, another airplane will be scrambled to intercept him and force him out of the area, or he'll be shot down.
Even military pilots on exercise here are forbidden to overfly this zone. If they do, it could mean the end of their career. If you as a civilian pilot were to fly into Groom Lake, certainly you can lose your pilot's license.
Well, for 40 years, it has been the location of choice for testing black projects. The most secret projects in the world that our military is looking into, that's where they go. I mean, it's perfect for that. It's ringed by mountains. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's adjacent to the nuclear test site. It has, I'm told, surface-to-air missiles in case planes fly over that aren't welcome there. It has motion detectors in the ground. It has ammonia detectors that can sense the smell of ammonia in human skin. It has surveillance cameras to see who's looking down on the base. So it is an extremely secure location.
Of course, these kinds of security measures are not uncommon around top-secret military installations. Could it be that the next generation of high-tech weaponry is currently being tested? Particle beams, high-powered lasers, or space weapons? Or could it be something else entirely? Is there finally some evidence that corroborates Bob Lazar's story? Is the power source that moves alien spacecraft through the cosmos actually in the government's possession?
Many of us have devoted a lot of time and energy to research on what's going on at Area 51. But no question in my mind that a new type of technology is being developed. We have seen aircraft over there at Area 51 above the Groom Mountains that definitely resemble what's known as flying discs or flying saucers.
In the UFO research field, a growing number of experts are making claims that secret government projects at the Groom Lake facility are somehow related to technology brought here from another planet. Whether or not this incredible claim is true, one thing seems certain. Witnesses have seen some kind of aircraft at Groom Lake that appear to be something not made by human designers. Have they actually seen UFOs at Area 51? What about photographs, videotapes? What are these strange lights in the sky? Are there reliable eyewitness reports of alien spacecraft, even alien beings, at Area 51? The saga of Area 51 neither begins nor ends with the Bob Lazar story. In point of fact, strange sightings in this area of the Nevada desert were being reported before Bob Lazar was even born. But it was the general awareness created by the interview with George Knapp on a Las Vegas TV station that seemed to focus public attention on the area. Prior to that series of interviews, Area 51 was just a designation on old military maps where atomic bombs were touched off, in the interest of national security, of course. But in 1955, all of that changed. In that year, Lockheed desperately needed someplace to test their latest super-secret aircraft, the U-2 spy plane. They turned to one of their chief test pilots, a man by the name of Tony LeVere, to help them find a secluded spot within enough land to accommodate a very long runway. And with that, Area 51 became America's most secret new aircraft testing facility. But what else was going on there? The official U.S. government statement concerning Area 51 reads,
"Neither the Air Force nor the Department of Defense owns or operates any location known as Area 51.
Strictly speaking, that's true. And even though it was built by the CIA and is used exclusively, so far as anyone knows, for government-related projects, it is operated by a private company and guarded by the Wackenhut private security force hired by that company. For over 30 years, except for a couple of ranchers, people generally ignored Rachel, Nevada, and the nearby Groom Lake facility. But there were other things going on that would give Bob Lazar's story instant credibility. A 1950 FBI memo from Agent Guy Hottle reported that he had been told by an Air Force investigator that 3 flying saucers had been recovered in the New Mexico desert. After all, the alien craft Lazar claimed he worked on had to come from someplace. So even before the complex at Area 51 was built, the seeds of one of the nation's most troublesome mysteries were already being planted. Today, hundreds of UFO watchers regularly drive out into the Nevada desert across public land and make their way up to the top of Whiteside Mountain or Freedom Ridge to try and get a glimpse of what they believe to be a captured vehicle from another world.
In one of our expeditions to Area 51, one of our affiliate members succeeded in taking rather remarkable footage of what appears to be a disc-shaped object over Groom Lake itself. It didn't behave like any conventional aircraft I've ever seen, no sound whatsoever. But the remarkable thing is that in other occasions we have seen the zigzag maneuvering of this type of aircraft, sometimes almost a 75-degree turn and sudden descension and ascension.
Could this really be a spacecraft from another planet that fell into human hands?
A consistent story that comes up from a lot of workers is that a craft was brought here around 1953 and that actual live aliens were brought here about that same time.
Well, the Russians have been taking pictures of Area 51 for many years. Stalin had an intense interest in UFOs, and one of the things he wanted to know about was Roswell. And the conclusion they came up with was that Roswell was real, that something really did crash there, that it wasn't a weather balloon, and it wasn't anything of earthly origin. They didn't know exactly where it came from, but they knew it wasn't ours and it wasn't theirs, and this was something that was of monumental importance that needed to be studied.
Of course, to this point, these claims are still just hearsay and rumor without more evidence to support them. Does such proof exist?
All the stories that float around this place are as much a mystery to workers as they are to us.
Do we know where all these stories of captured UFOs originated? And how did these craft get to Area 51?
Folks who run Area 51 won't admit that it exists. There was a federal lawsuit that was just tossed out in which they just wanted to know the name of the base, and they fought it tooth and nail and now don't have to reveal the name of it.
If you work in a secret area like this, like Area 51, your work is highly compartmentalized. You come to work on jets from Las Vegas with the window shades down. Upon arrival at Groom Lake, you are bussed in buses with blacked out windows directly to your workplace. You see nothing more than the hangar or the few buildings that you happen to work in.
That's the interesting dichotomy. The Russians can fly over it and take pictures. In fact, we've signed an open skies treaty that allows dozens of other nations to fly over and take all the pictures they want. But we, the people who foot the bills for the place, aren't supposed to know about it.
In 1988, a Russian satellite took a remarkable photograph over Area 51. Notice the object highlighted at the end of the runway. It's positioned at the same position as if it were about to take off.
Recently, several new photographs of Area 51 were released on the internet, perhaps in recognition of the fact that in spite of repeated denials, the public demand for an explanation of the mystery of Area 51 continues to grow every day.
This year we've seen two sets of images of Area 51 that were released. The first came from a Russian spy satellite that can see things as small as 6 feet across. The second came from a U.S. commercial satellite, and it can see things as small as 3 feet across. This gives us unprecedented clarity and detail of the activities at Area 51, and this is from a base that the U.S. government claims still does not exist.
The detail in these new satellite photographs is indeed startling, but the images raise more questions. Mainly, what activity? Note that in none of these photographs is there any indication of active personnel. If something is going on there, where is it taking place? Until now, Bob Lazar has been the only eyewitness to come forward and describe any kind of work being done on alien technology in Area 51. However, in an exclusive interview with Encounters with the Unexplained, this man, David Adair, a respected and internationally recognized expert in space technology, agreed to speak out publicly for the first time about his own incredible experience at Area 51.
I built a rocket when I was 17 years old after building many rockets to get to this one that I built, and it was about 10 feet tall and it weighed about a ton, and the engine design was somewhat unique. It was an EFMC engine, electromagnetic fusion containment engine. There was a lot of help involved. There was congressional help, there was help from the military, and once we had the thing completed, we took it to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and then it was flown from there to White Sands, New Mexico. And then on June 20th, 1971, we launched this missile. The rocket was extremely fast, and it left out of the area, and a man named Arthur Rudolph was there who gave me coordinates to land it at a place called Groom Lake, Nevada. The rocket soft impacts up there with parachutes, and we fly from White Sands to Groom Lake, and when we get there, there are twin 10,000-foot runways, and it's a considerable Air Force base there. Once we land, when we got to the center hangar, we stopped, and then the entire floor of the hangar dropped out from under us, and it was an elevator. And we went down about 200 feet, and when we flushed out with the floor down there, the huge underground facility has a kind of a rainbow-type cascade-looking roof, and the walls cantered down on the sides, and on each side you have big work bays and workshops and offices. So we rode past a lot of these workshops, and then we got down a good ways, and then we stopped to a work bay that was on our left, and they got out, and the man opened the doors, and the doors slid back, and we went in this room where there was lights everywhere, but there was no shadows, kind of like a painter's booth. And they had this something sitting on a huge metal table, and it was covered up, and they pushed a button, and the cables raised this big cover, and to my surprise, it's another EMFC engine, but it's about the size of a Greyhound bus. My engine and that one worked similarly, but the difference is mine was like a Model T, and this thing was more like a Lamborghini. It's incredibly sophisticated. I knew that this engine, it couldn't have been made in our technology level. This thing, as big as it was, there was no wires, and there was no screws, no rivets, no bolts, no weld lines, no seams, nothing. It looked like the entire thing grew. When you touch the engine, that's where it gets even better. And wherever your skin touches it, these really pretty swirl patterns would radiate from your skin through the hull, the metal, and it would descend out maybe 5-6 feet in all directions. So it was really interesting. It was reacting to touch. I just finally had enough. I knew that this engine didn't belong to them, and it couldn't the way the thing was constructed. We had no capabilities at that time. Even today, we don't have that kind of technology. So I'm really angry. They're angry. They tell me to get down. So I'm coming down off the engine, and everywhere I'm touching the engine, it's no longer the blue-white swirls. It's now fiery red. Looks like orange-red colors shooting through the hull. And after seeing this, as I'm coming down, I stop, and I'm so amazed by this and watching it. As I calmed down, it went back slowly to the bluish white swirls. That's when I realized that this engine it's alive. It's picking up on not heat radiation but thought waves. This thing is a symbiotic engine. It's capable of linking with the occupants of a craft.
They've had aircraft, you know, that like saucer-shaped craft that crash into the ground because they don't understand what makes them tick. They're actually using some humans in a telepathic form through, like the remote viewing project that they had, which actually connected with Area 51, so that they could try and figure out how these craft were controlled, because it was all done with thought.
If this sounds too far-fetched, let me bring you to current events. In Princeton University right now, there's a professor there at Peer Labs named Dr. Robert John, who's working with the military on the X-29 fighter. And what he's doing is building a buffer system where the aircraft and the pilot, when he puts his helmet on, has leads stuck to his skull. And as he thinks, the plane reacts. And that is a symbiotic relationship between the pilot and the aircraft. When I finally got down off the engine and I got on the floor and I turned around and looked back at it, I realized that this engine was extraterrestrial in origin. It was outside of our technology of building something like that. And I realized I was standing on top of a huge piece of evidence everybody's looking for. And that made me more angry because I realized that they were holding back on all this stuff. And no one has the right to do that.
The encounter ended with David being summarily and rudely locked up until General Curtis LeMay, then the commander of the Strategic Air Command, came to personally escort him home.
Well, after LeMay picked me up and we were flying home, he told me that they weren't through with me. They'll be back. He'll try to cover up as much as he can to help me out. But he said they will return in your life.
The general was right. While still in his high school graduation cap and gown, David Adair was personally handed his draft notice. He would spend the next 8 years in the United States Navy. But in the meantime, the young rocket scientist had seen and touched what he still believes is a symbiotic, perhaps even biological engine of extraterrestrial origin. Could it be that the mysterious craft seen over Area 51 were not recovered at UFO crash sites? Is it possible that our government has been working secretly with an alien civilization? Are we on friendly terms with beings from another planetary system? Just in case you're wondering whether America's best-known secret base is still above the law and presumably still up to its neck in secret projects, a presidential determination dated September 25, 1998 should put everyone's mind at ease. In this document, President Clinton exempted the United States Air Force operating location near Groom Lake, Nevada, from any federal, state, interstate, or local hazardous or solid waste laws that might require disclosure of classified information. The letter went on to state that disclosure would be harmful to national security. But from whom are we keeping the nation secure? No one argues the fact that if it's true, Robert Lazar's story that he worked on a full-scale version of this alien craft is probably the most important news story of the last 100 years. And if David Adair's story is true, an even larger and presumably more powerful engine of unknown origin has also been in government possession for at least 30 years. But what about the story behind this supposedly alien technology? How did it come to be in human hands? According to Lazar, during his stay at Area 51, he was given information which, if true, would constitute undeniable proof of intelligent life on other planets. In Lazar's video interview, he claims that while at the super-secret S4 facility, he was shown official briefing documents stating that the beings who gave us the secrets of the flying saucer came from the Zeta Reticuli system, a star system that is 35 light-years from Earth.
The beings are 3 to 4 feet tall and weigh 25 to 50 pounds. They have grayish skin and large heads with almond-shaped wraparound eyes. These beings said that they had been visiting Earth for a long time and presented photographic evidence which they contended was over 10,000 years old. There was an exchange of hardware and information in Central Nevada until 1979, at which time there was a conflict which brought the program to an abrupt halt.
Few made the connection at the time, but Lazar's identification of the Zeta Reticuli system appears to corroborate an amazing story told 20 years earlier by Betty Hill, one of the first UFO abductees.
And while Betty was aboard the ship, she was conscious enough to look around and ask questions. And she saw what appeared to be a star map on the wall on the inside of this ship. And she asked who apparently was the leader of the group what it represented. And he says, well, it's our sector of the universe. Well, Betty remembered that, apparently. It was imprinted in her subconscious. And Betty was able to draw a sketch of what she had seen on that star map inside the ship. No one really knew just what it meant, except that a brilliant young woman, an astronomer by the name of Marjorie Fish, looked at it and said, I think I can make some sense out of that. And over the course of about 6 years, Marjorie Fish put together what she thought that map that Betty remembered represented. But on that map were a couple of star systems that were not discovered until the late 60s. Once we made those additional discoveries, the Fish map became very valid. And the place that the captain of the ship told Betty that they were from was a star system that we call Zeta Reticuli.
Could Betty Hill have made all of this up? Did Bob Lazar just pull that name out of a hat? Or are we finally seeing some corroborating evidence of alien visitations, even abductions, tied to Area 51?
That Betty and Barney didn't make it up. Because over the years since, that's a tiny part of a vast amount of evidence that these are real events.
But what of this notion that our government and the aliens have cut some sort of deal? Is such a thing even remotely possible?
It is possible that our governments could cut a deal with an alien world in exchange for the technology that we have gained so rapidly and so quickly. We've given them something else, maybe the ability to come and go from this planet and use it like a gas station to go to other planets. Perhaps they're after resources, the water or the minerals in our planet, or possibly even use us as resources.
The theories and possibilities boggle the mind. Government collusion with alien forces, abductions, engines of enormous power, all hidden by the desert sands of Area 51. Is this the secret the government is so anxious to protect at Groom Lake? Is it even remotely possible that Area 51 is being used as a sort of spaceport for alien craft in exchange for technology?
Area 51 could easily be used as a spaceport. Any facility such as that is that's concealed and has boundaries set off and keeps the public away, and also in a remote area like in a desert, you could easily come and go without much problems, especially if your craft are impervious to radar where you can't see it, and possibly even the naked eye couldn't even see it.
Lazar says he witnessed the operation of the ship's power source and that it made use of the enormous energy made possible by antimatter. And according to Lazar, one matter, antimatter weapon could easily destroy all of the Earth's civilizations. Lazar also claims that using this energy as a power source makes this craft impossible to detect.
The disk can't be seen from any vantage point, and for all practical purposes is invisible. All you could see would be the sky surrounding it.
These are fantastic claims, and Bob Lazar has been accused of fabricating much, if not all of it. Is there any reason to believe what he says?
The thing I notice about Bob Lazar when he talks, he's one of the best articulate people in the world of physics. I saw people working down there, so there had to be people working on these projects, and maybe they should take a closer look at what he's saying and really analyze it.
Assuming for the moment that all of this is true, what purpose could the government have in mind for all of this technology? Norio Hayakawa doesn't believe these new advances will be used for the betterment of all humankind.
You can rest assured that this technology, one way or the other, is going to be used for some type of military activity. Well, this could be used for a large-scale, unprecedented type of war we have ever seen.
Norio Hayakawa doesn't believe these new advances will be used for the betterment of all humankind.
These are photos of a secret California facility conducted by Lockheed Corporation. There are several secret air bases in Southern California where they are testing the parts to build some of these this craft objects, and the strange thing about these facilities is that you don't see any aircraft on the runway, no aircraft whatsoever. When this facility was under construction, people near the area have seen rows and rows of cement trucks almost 24 hours a day, continuously, in one cases for several weeks at a time, indicating that a large underground complex was being constructed.
I was fortunate enough to interview people who constructed the underground facility at Area 51. There's research laboratories and things like that under the desert floor, and then the surface was restored to look like it did before.
According to Hayakawa, the security around this facility is as strict as that surrounding Area 51, and the sheer size of each is truly staggering. Even if some secret project of gigantic proportions really is going on underground in California and Nevada, does that mean the technology is being developed for hostile purposes?
To be honest with you, I would not be surprised that some abductees are taken to some U.S. underground facilities. And if that is indeed the case, there again, we're dealing with a criminal case here that involves total violation of our constitutional system.
Can these stories actually be true? UFO abductees brought by force to Area 51. Is there any evidence to support these frightening claims? In Robert Lazar's video, he claims that the S4 facility near Area 51 is hidden inside a mountain with 9 giant hangar doors textured to blend in with surroundings. Incredibly, this matches the description given by some people who claim to have been kidnapped by the occupants of a UFO, then taken to a mysterious underground facility.
Abductees have been taken to places that they have assumed were underground facilities. Abductees have also reported that they have seen what appeared to be U.S. military people involved in their abduction.
And yet there are also those who believe the military is developing this technology for the protection of the human race from an alien invasion.
I don't think the government or the military believes that we face a major threat from anybody on this planet, that our greatest threat literally comes from someplace out of this world.
Others believe the government is only interested in protecting itself.
They started infiltrating UFO organizations. They spied on UFO researchers. They put out false information to muddy the waters. They actively encourage this laughter curtain, a policy of ridicule that anyone who sees a UFO is crazy. Well, anyone who sees a UFO is not crazy. That's just the prism through which we view this now. The government's done a very good job of disinformation, of clouding the whole issue.
All the eyewitnesses that said they've seen things flying at Area 51 is easily explained. They're seeing things that are flying there. Research is going on, and they're flying everything from reverse engineering aircraft to possible extraterrestrial craft coming and going. So these people are not nuts. They are seeing things fly around out there.
It's an underground military presence that is vast. Friends of mine who've been in it have said that it's literally a 40-story building buried underground.
If UFOs are real, the government has perhaps a legitimate interest in avoiding panic and making sure that society does not overreact to this situation. Purportedly, UFOs have been known to the government since the 40s and 50s. During that time, there was a lot of hysteria about communism, about world affairs. If you were to introduce UFOs at that time, perhaps there would be mass hysteria. Perhaps there would be a shaking of the foundations of our society.
They try and cover up stories. They treat the public like it's just not even important. They've got devices sitting in crates that humanity could benefit from. But what do? They sit there and try and figure out how to make a weapon out of it. It's not the right way to go about it. If they want it to evolve, they've got to start sharing some of the information so that everybody can start working on how to advance it and use it.
Bob Lazar is unshakable in his story. In a recent interview, he was quoted as saying,
"I am exactly sure of what I saw. I know what mainstream science is like. I know where physics stands. I know all of that, and this is an extraterrestrial craft. This technology is hundreds and hundreds of years in advance of us, and that's the end of the story."
But those of us who didn't see it firsthand still have to ask, is there any indisputable evidence that alien technology is being tested and used at Area 51? Could it be that locked deep beneath the desert floor, behind the tightest ring of security in our history, there is proof positive of life on other worlds? If that proof is there, it brings up another, even more profound question. Will the world be better off if that startling disclosure is made and the unexplained becomes the unimaginable?